Hello everyone, my name is Zoe Cavada. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the game I have been developing over the course of this semester. I named my game Chemistry Endothermic and Exothermic Board Game. Here is my prototype that I have made on paper. So this is on a large poster board for me to then use to test out with family members and friends. As you can see, there's a lot of different colors, so the different colored spaces represent different units that we have covered throughout the year. I anticipate on using this game in my class as an end of the year review. I think I may also kind of switch it up and use it as a midterm review as well by taking out some of the colored spaces and just using more colored spaces that we've used and covered the units from the beginning of the year to the middle of the year. So the dice that students will use, instead of just using a normal die, they will use one that I create on a digital resource where the sides are different elements on the periodic table. So I'll be using elements 1 through 6, which are hydrogen, helium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen. So they'll be using their atomic number to figure out how many spaces they can move forward. There will be random markers throughout the game board, as you can see the little stars that I'll talk about in a minute. The students will be able to create their own avatar as their game pawn because I anticipate on making this actual game on a Google slide, where instead of having a pile of actual game cards, each tile will have a link to a Google Forms where they can answer the questions to move forward. I already anticipate that being much easier than the prototype, the paper prototype I have created, because we cover, if you actually count up, we cover 15 to 16 units in this class, if you count our safety unit, which I will incorporate some questions on. So having 16 different color-coded cards, plus then on top of that I have incorporated a rule with easy, medium, and hard questions. It makes organizing the different cards kind of hard. So I think having a digital version of this where it can just be linked to the different questions will make things much easier. Here are some examples of questions that will be asked of students. So I have the Unit 1 example questions and Unit 2 example questions just to give you an idea. These are some sort of easy, medium, and hard level questions. These are just kind of easy and medium questions. And then I have a separate slide that I'll show you some harder questions. So these I deemed as easy/medium questions using some old Regents questions because, again, I'm going to be using this as a Regents review for my students. This is an example of some challenge questions that would be used that are covering units 1 and 2 as well. I find that students typically struggle with math questions, so I will be incorporating a lot of the harder challenge questions. We'll have more of the math on them, and also some concepts that I've found over the course of the year that students struggle with, that they would need to know to get a mastery score on the exam, not necessarily to pass the exam. So here's sort of a zoomed in picture of the beginning of the board just to explain some of the different symbols on here. So to start, we have a ladder from Chutes and Ladders, and I'm calling them endothermic ladders because in chemistry there's different types of reactions and different amounts of energy that's associated with these reactions. So endothermic reactions absorb heat. And so if a player lands on a tile where the endothermic ladder starts, if they answer the question correctly, they are allowed to move up the ladder. However, to do so, they need to answer a medium or hard level question. If they decide to just answer an easy level question, then they're just going to stay where they are. Then the chutes over here, we have exothermic chutes, which exothermic reactions release energy. So if a player lands on the exothermic chute at the top of it, then and they answer incorrectly, then they must move down the chute. Now with that, I don't have this incorporated into the rules yet, but as I'm kind of explaining this, if a student chooses a medium or hard question when they land on a chute and they get it incorrect, I would give them the opportunity to try one more question to get correct before having to move down the chute. If a student chooses an easy question and gets it incorrect, then they must move down the chute. Then there is the star symbol that I have placed randomly throughout the board, and this gives students an opportunity to build their own endothermic ladder. If they get a question correct and they land on one of these stars, they then can get another question correct, and it must be a medium or hard question, and they can build a 3-tile ladder straight up to move upwards. So they must answer 2 medium to hard level questions in order to move up that. If a student lands on any of the tiles and they choose an easy question and get it correct, they stay where they are, where they've moved to. If they choose a medium level question and get it correct on any of the tiles, they can move 1 tile forward. If they choose a hard level question and get it correct, they can choose another player to move back 3 spaces. So I've kind of incorporated some different opportunities for students to get ahead if they've been kind of consistently getting questions wrong and then they land on a unit that they know really well. It also gives them an opportunity to pull other players backwards and for them to then move forward. So I've tried to incorporate some different game objectives in here and some different properties of games as well. There are some kinks that definitely need to be worked out before I create my final version, but I think it will be much easier and make much more sense when I create the digital version, where I can just have links to these Google Forms with a drop-down box of them choosing between an easy, medium, and hard question. The cards, definitely, as I'm going through and making the paper prototype, having a million different stacks of cards and trying to keep track of all of them and color code them has been very difficult. So I'm looking forward to playing the paper prototype with my family and friends and then kind of working the kinks out as I create the digital version. Thank you.